Alright guys, today we are doing a fuel sending unit in my 94 Ford Mustang. This is going to apply to any 94 to 2004 Mustangs. V6 GT Cobras, same idea. And this is going to be for the fuel sending unit, which is responsible for your fuel gauge. That is separate from your fuel pump. However, the process is going to be pretty much identical for the two, so follow it through. On the fuel tank there is a sending unit, which is the smaller one in the middle, and then the fuel pump is on the right side. It is a tall boy, very different. One pumps fuel, one tells you your fuel level. So that's that. We have our vehicle on ramps already. Let's jump into it. Good time to mention, you do want to disconnect your battery before playing with any of this, and you are playing with open gas, so no flames, fire, anything like that. Keep that in mind. All right, so we've gone ahead. We have loosened off the filler cap here. And we've gone to each of these strap bolts here and sprayed them down with penetrating fluid. These are 1/2 inch or 13 mils. Gone ahead and gotten those off with our impact. And these are very prone to snapping or breaking and twisting, so it might be a good idea to have extras. We have disconnected our filler pipe support bolt here. It's an 8 mil off the passenger side of the fuel tank. And we have a jack supporting our fuel tank. So our next step is going to be prying our fuel tank towards the driver's side away from the filler neck here. It should pop out of this seal, and this is not a bad time to replace this seal. And if we can't do that, we may have to crawl up top here and loosen some things off, but we're going to try and slide her out of the way here. This is a pretty empty tank, so let's see what we can do here. Good time to mention, you will have to unplug this wire from the rear support here, and that goes a lot further into the tank than I assumed. So you do have to drop the tank until this hump will go underneath the spare tire location, and then you can just slide it out the driver's side. So wasn't expecting that, but that's a thing. And we're just going to go ahead and lower it down enough, making sure not to stress any of these cables, so I'll probably pull that one down. And we'll probably just drop it down enough so these fuel lines are still attached. You will need a special tool, so if you're doing a fuel pump, basically a quick disconnect for AC lines or fuel lines. But we are going after our fuel level sender, which is here under all of this dust. So that's great. So drop this down, disconnect it. There should be a ring somewhere under there, and it needs to be absolutely spotless, so we have our work cut out for us. So this might take us a bit, but fuel tank is basically out of the vehicle and we're almost there. Alright, so we've actually been at this for quite a while. We are using a brass punch and a brass chisel, and we are trying to hammer this ring out, and it has taken a lot of penetrating fluid. We have finally got to the point where this ring is now moving, so these little stoppers were tight and flush here. So we are making progress. I did just blast off any penetrating fluid. We don't want that going inside the tank, so we're going to finish it off here. I am now hammering inside of this little open groove here. It's hard to see. That's our best bite. Everything else is kind of rounding off or just kind of falling apart, but we're working one side, then we'll hop to the other, and we're going back and forth, and we're actually getting it to move now. It's been about 10 minutes. Quite a lot of hammering, but we are getting there, so not a bad idea to see how this is sitting in here. So we have the rivet closest to the rear of the engine and the electrical connection to the front, so not a bad idea. Everything else is just kind of dangling out of the way, so let's just finish hammering this off. Does take a little bit of work, but we are getting there. Good time to mention, brass is very important. You don't want to be making any sparks or anything around here. So we did get our ring off, and we're gonna see now in our new kit we came with 2 different rings as well as our new seal and gasket. So we take our ring off, and we are going to want to remember how that went on, and we are going to want to match this up. So this one has these 4 sections on it, and this is going to be our new one here with the 4, and you can see this one here only has the 3 little tabs or grooves or sections. We're not going to use the 3-sided one, so we want to make sure that these are the only 2 we're going to use. Put these off in a clean spot. Take our old beat up ring. You can see how much corrosion there is in good old Canada. Put that aside. And at this point, this should just pop up. Again, remembering how this was sitting in the tank, connector to the front. And that's our old gasket. and you basically just slide it forward. Well, ours just fell right apart. That's our problem. Nice. This is a two-handed job, but you basically slide it like this and straight up and out. Take our new one and we'll hook it in, and I'll show you guys that one. So at this point you can see our new one here, and this is our old one. We do want to be comparing these, making sure they are the same. Very obviously this is our issue here, so safe to say we're going to solve our problem here today. You are going to want to make sure you get your old gasket out of the way. Without shoving any of this debris into the tank, we want to remove it as best as we can, so vacuum might be your best bet here. And not a bad idea to check inside the tank and see how dirty it is. So I'm going to clean this up off camera, take our new float, and we are just going to feed this one in sideways, basically the same way it came out, like that, making sure that it is sitting with the float towards the front of the vehicle, and that's pretty much it. Then we gotta take our new ring and do this all over again. It may not be a bad idea to apply a little bit of grease to the bottom side here. Not necessary, it usually goes in a lot easier. So we're gonna drop this in with each of our giant tabs here in between our overhanging hooks. Just like that. And then we gotta hammer this in similar to how we took it out, and make sure that these retaining tabs end up on the other side of these. So it should take a little bit of persuasion, but it should be a lot easier than removing it, especially up here in the northern climates. You want to make sure that this is sitting nice and flush with your new gasket, and we're basically done. It's not a bad idea to put some dielectric grease on these connectors, especially underneath where they're going to see a lot of corrosion. Go ahead and plug both of these in. We have the one for our fuel pump and then our sending unit. Red goes to your fuel pump. They are color coordinated here. And then white to white or gray to white. Put a little bit of dielectric grease on there, slam those in, and then for the bolts on our fuel tank straps, not a bad idea to put some anti-seize on those if you are planning to ever remove your tank again. Also, peep the tire that's facing the wrong way. I just bought the car. I promise that wasn't me anyway, so go ahead, slam these on, put our fuel tank on the jack, and we're gonna have to shoehorn it onto the filler neck, and then we can basically jack it up, slam it into place, bolt it in, and we are done. So at this point you want to take your key, if you did a fuel pump, stick it in the ignition, and you'll turn it one click until your radio and everything turns on, and you can listen for your fuel pump, see if it primes. It should make a little whizzing noise. And if you did disconnect your fuel lines or replaced your fuel pump, you may have to cycle your key like this a couple times, let it sit for a couple seconds, turn it off. You may have to do that a couple times just to get the fuel back up into the fuel lines, everything pressurized and the air bled out. So let's give her a fire up, boys. Woo! We do have some issues to solve with this vehicle. That is something to keep in mind. And we did drain our fuel, so it is showing no fuel. Everything's looking good. All right, guys, so that's it. That's how you do a fuel sending unit or fuel pump in your 94 to 2004 SN95 or New Edge Mustang. So, hope this helps. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to see any more cool content with a Mustang, hang around, because we got a bunch of stuff to come. So, hope this helped you guys out. Catch you in the next one.